doing you. All right. So, and does the image have to be copyright free? So, Alice, you'll see if you go to week 14, and maybe I'll do that first, just as a quick little, like, here's what, if you've got some free time in the next week and you're thinking to yourself, what might I be able to do in this spare time that I all of a sudden have? Okay, there we go. And so you're just gonna, because I know you're all wondering, what should I do with my spare time? That's really important. Kiana's looking at me as if I'm crazy, actually. So, what I'm inviting you to do is to just think about an image that reflects your process. And you could be funny about this. You could joke about it. It might be fun. I thought it might be a fun thing to look at. You choose an image and you're going to post it on Padlet. And here are some possible free image sources. So I would, because I really want to affirm us being ethically sound, these are just free digital images. You can also choose to try out an AI image creator. And so free pick. Oh, I did put, I will make sure that I put the link there. Free pick is a free AI generator. So you can enter key terms and create your own images. And it is actually, you can do 40 images for free. So that's the best one that I know of. Of course, all of you are way cooler than I am. And so you will, will probably have other sources for images that I don't know about, but it should be copyright free. And so here's the scoop. Thanks for asking that question, Julia, because that was just what I was going to talk about, is that if you're coming to class, I'm going to invite you to talk for 3 to 4 minutes about your image and about the process. If you're not able to be in class, then I'm just going to ask you to write a few lines about it. And why are we doing this on the last day? Because I think it is helpful to, at the end of a journey, to actually think a little bit about what the process was like. But this is not something that I would like to cause you incredible stress. And so if you aren't able to find an image, then you can still come to class. Don't not come to class because you didn't find an image, but you could actually describe an image if you wanted to. But I'm hoping that this actually provides kind of a fun thing for you to think about that is arts-based and just might be a fun thing to do. It's always also something you could do on your phone, right? And so hopefully that is something that does bring you enjoyment as you think about it. Okay, any questions about that activity for next week? All right, and I put everything, I'll have everything on the announcement page as well. So let us take a look at this slideshow, which has on it a checklist for your final report. Frizana and I thought that it might be a helpful thing for everyone to have, just so you know, so you're not thinking to yourself, you're not really stressed out thinking, oh my gosh, do I have everything? Have I done everything right? So here is your checklist. So when you're thinking about your cover page, your list of figures, tables, charts, graphs, and table of contents, you want to think about, does the cover page contain your name and the capstone research topic? I know that it seems really silly to have things like this, but sometimes when you have spent a long time working on something, you don't actually see things anymore. And other things, have you removed the words sample research report template from the final report? And you might think to yourself, oh my gosh, that is hilarious. Why would anyone ever do that. But here's what happens when you are rushed. Sometimes you forget to remove things that are there. And is the list of figures, tables, charts, and graphs in APA format? Are the list of tables listed together, followed by a list of charts? And then there's just an example for you to look at as well. And is the table of contents, is the table of contents easy to read? Is it helpful? Does it include page numbers? Have you removed irrelevant material from the template? And so as you know, this is a simple thing. You're going to update the table of contents at the end. But what can sometimes happen is that you end up with including something in a style that is actually so that it generates an entire paragraph into your table of contents. How do I know this? Because I've done it before. And so if you are in a place where you're like, oh my gosh, why is all this additional stuff in my table of contents? Please don't panic. That would be a time when you just reach out to me and say, Bethany, I've tried to fix this and it won't change, and I will be able to fix it with you in 3 minutes. So you can, I'm really happy. If it's the middle of the night, I would prefer that you send me, I won't be able to meet with you, but if you send it to me, I can fix it. But if you want to see how it's done, then I'm happy to meet with you for a couple of minutes to do that, just in case that happens. I'm hoping that the way that everything is generated, that won't be an issue, but it may be, because you may end up doing something creative and change things up a little bit. And then sometimes you can even have an image appear in your table of contents if it's been snagged into a particular style. So your abstract, your introduction, and your lit review. So does your abstract cover all of the key points required? And you can find the example of that in your week 12 contents. Does your introduction section provide an introduction to the broad topic, an introduction to this study, why this study and why it's important? And that could also include why it's important to you. Like, why did you choose that research topic? And then the research question. And have you incorporated any suggestions for improvement that you received on your lit review assignment in semester 1? Are your citations in APA style? And do in-text citations respond to the reference list citations? Yeah, Marita.
For the introduction, is it the same, like, can we put the same introduction that we had in that other assignment? I forget.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you're all of these things, you are absolutely able to. There may be a word or two that you want to change, or you may want to add a sentence. It just depends. It's going to be a little bit different for everyone. But it's absolutely, you can absolutely use it. Thanks for clarifying that, Marita. Okay, so our next one. So methodology. Does the section have relevant content organized under the 4 major headings? And those headings are in your template. So your research design, and you want to refer to your ethics protocol for the contents, your data collection, and you're going to refer to your ethics protocol for content. But I want to remind you that some of you have made small changes. So under the data collection piece, this is where Marita would say, in the final research, you would actually talk about your process. So you would say, I started off with Peel region, then I moved to Ontario, then I moved to Canada, and then I moved to North America, right? In terms of, so that's what you would say. And you might give one line that says, just recognizing that, that I may need to expand my pool because I was doing, this is where you might also say, and you did a rationale, Marita, when you made that change as well, that in fact, you had the option more than other people that it didn't matter that it wasn't all in Canada, because it was actually referring to the experience of using technology. Whereas, for example, Kiana and Natasha were looking specifically at Ontario, right? And so, and we're looking, so they couldn't change up some of their things, like racialized long-term care workers. And then your data analysis. So you want to describe what you did in assignment 3, A and B in your own words. And then your ethical safeguards. So refer to your ethics protocol. So what did you do in terms of ethics protocol in order to safeguard the people who were going to participate? So that's where you might put in something around anonymity, how you stored your data. And for someone like Julia actually made a decision to not collect her data the way that she was collecting it, because she recognized that it might be a conflict of interest to be collecting her data from her fellow staff people. And you want to make sure that your methodology section is written in past tense. That's because it is in the past tense, because you are finished your methodology section. You are finished all of those different pieces. And so your results and findings section. So have you incorporated any feedback from assignment 3, part B? Does the findings sections look like that of a professional report or journal article? And you have lots and lots of examples of that through all of the readings that you've had in this course, right? And so you can find that list under readings in the content section in Slate. So you want to make sure that your tables and charts are clearly labeled and easy to read. Is the topic that they are related to clearly listed? Is there a narrative accompanying each table and chart? So, and this is not something that I'm worried about for you. You've all done a really good job of that narrative and of the explanation. I may have invited you to go a little bit further in terms of your narrative. I may have asked you to make some connections between things, but in general, what I saw you produce was good. And there you can see an example looking at survey findings as well. So there are examples that are embedded here throughout. And then you are looking at quotes. Are quotes used selectively and to illustrate narratives at strategic points instead of being pasted in a block below the text? And you want to, you can use a lovely quote in a space, but you want to actually connect them into the narrative as well. So you don't want to just have some quotes that are just hanging there. For many of you, those who have done interviews, you'll actually be reducing the number of quotes that you had, and it will be difficult to choose which ones you're choosing, because people who did interviews have a lot of data in terms of quotes. I think for those of you with surveys, quotes will be smaller, and so don't worry. So you don't need to worry about reducing your quotes if you've got surveys, but those of you who did interviews, I gave some comments about that.
Okay. There's a lot of them that answered sentences like tell us why not or whatever.
Yeah, for sure. And our quotes labeled with participant IDs of some sort. So you would your survey participants all have a number, and you would have changed the names of your of people who you interviewed. And for quantitative studies, do you want us to include quotes? Yeah, and that's, Julia, that was one piece of, so you did a quantitative study, but you had some qualitative questions. And so it's the qualitative questions that you're going to pull some of the quotes from. Okay, yeah. Good question. All of these are great questions. And you'll notice that these are all like little fiddly questions. So it's not, you have all of this. And so I hope you feel really confident going into the writing of your final report, because you have the you have the material. And so does the discussion section have all of the necessary pieces? And so you're going to look at your class content related to discussion, right? So you want to look at the different pieces that you want to include. So you want to go beyond simply describing the data to discussing it and connecting it to the literature. And provide your analysis. So are there places where your analysis confirms what the literature has already said, or might even, or it could also be contrasted in a particular way? And why do you think that is? And then does your conclusion section contain any limitations you want to highlight? And also implications for policy and practice. And each one of you will have different implications for policy and practice, right? And that is what is behind and what is significant about research that's done that emerges out of communities. So what do you think? And you can't get this wrong. So these two sections right here, in fact, you're not going to get things wrong in this. Like the only thing that might happen is that you didn't make a connection. I might make a comment about that. But you're not going to get this wrong because you've already done all of this and you've gotten feedback on all of this. So you might want to say any implications for policy and practice, or recommendations on what future research on the topic should be like. What should it cover? What approach would be useful to shed more light on the topic? And this is where you could say, I wish I could have done, and wow, it would have been nicer to have more time and more energy, more time and energy should be dedicated to. This is Julia, where you would say, and where Paul, you would say, Julia would say something like, initially I wanted to do research where I was including residents and was actually measuring and giving measurements to staff people, and realized that that wasn't possible within the context of this and the scope of this research. However, I think that in order to truly measure the impact of creative programming on neuroplasticity, a research study that actually covered more time and had very specific criteria would be important. Paul would say, man, oh man, my terrible professor did not let me talk to youth, and I really would have liked to talk to youth and hear about their side of the whole mentoring piece. And well, probably don't say, Paul, you're a terrible professor, whether you believe it or not, but you might say something like, the scope of this research and the limitations of the research participants led me to concentrate on mentors rather than mentees, but it would have been very helpful, and further research on the experience of mentees would be of Black male youth would be very helpful. So those kinds. And then your references, your appendices, and your rubric. So are your references in APA style? Are they in the text of your document and vice versa? So you want to make sure that there's consistency around that. Fastest way to find that out, speaking from someone who's had to do this 1,000 times, is to use the find section in Word, and you look for the last name of your author and you make sure that there's a citation and a reference the same, because they'll pull them together. Because sometimes when you've got something that's this big, right, and that's happened over an entire 15 months, you may have dropped something, added something, and so you want to make sure there's consistency. So are all of your required appendices labeled and attached? And have you attached the informed consent form that went into your survey? Have you gone through the rubric to ensure you've covered all pieces of material that you'll be graded on? And my friends, that is the end of what needs to be included. And this is not something that I think that you will have trouble with. I think that it is something, when you have something that's a big a big assignment like this, it can be really helpful to just go through systematically. So you've got the template and you know what you need to include, and then just to ask these questions to yourself. So you could write each section just asking those questions. And so we wanted to provide you with support just as you're going through this. Any questions?
Will those slides be posted on Slate?
As soon as we finish class, and in fact, I can, because I have to wait for the Zoom to download. What I will do right at this very moment, I'm gonna just, it won't let me, I'm gonna close the, sorry, it won't let me upload something if it's open on my laptop. So I am going to
Thank you.
just put it into the chat so that you have it right away. Okie dokie. And you should have access to it. So yeah, but I will also, I'll post it, and I drafted everything so I could put it up as soon as possible. Yeah, so any other questions as you're finishing these last little bits?
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Like the sample that you gave us, do we need to use I'm using the sample, but I mean, did I need to use the word? Because when I downloaded it, it's changed my computer, and it's like, oh, so what I'm doing is that I go back there, I look topic one by one, so I do it on my own word. So is that okay for me?
Oh, of course it is.
Oh, okay,
Antonia, I'm sorry that sometimes formatting, like that's the tricky part about all of this, right? Is that sometimes formatting changes, but it's only meant as a
sample.
So you want to include, I hope, did the table of contents transfer over?
I'm trying to do that table of contents. It's like, oh my God, no. So I'm going to do my own. So I'll be following it, right? Because I'm trying to see what I can do with the table of content. I wanted to copy it and put it in my Word, but it's not working.
Yeah, so
it's not working. So I said, okay, I will do it one line by line. I will do it on my own. I will create my own table and do it on my own.
That is a lot of work. So
yeah, I know.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show all of you so that you know for the future what this looks like in terms of inserting. So when you are so here is so if you see, can you see at the top of this document that I've gone to references, and look at this. You've got right at the very far left corner, you've got something that says table of contents. And so you can add your own table, so your automatic table 1 or your automatic table 2. And so you just click on it and it adds, and you'll get something that says something like this: no table of contents entries found. But if I'm going to show, I don't want this to confuse anyone. But if I go to home, you'll notice that there are something called styles. So if I put here that I want this to be written in a heading, I would say test. And then if I go back to my table of contents, I update it, and then all of a sudden it actually shows up as a table of contents. And I might say test 2. And if you'll look at, and if I had it in normal, it's not going to do anything. But if I put it in heading 2, it's going to look a little bit different. I'm going to go here, and you'll notice that it made an autocorrect. So it, as long as you are updating, a heading 1 will be completely flush with the side, and a heading 2 will be a little bit indented. And that's honestly, that is all that I did in the template. So I don't mean to confuse anyone with anything, but if you did find that something happened with the template, honestly, Antonia, doing the table of contents on your own,
Yeah, really.
and in fact, if you'd like, you can make some time with me this week, and and I'm really happy to go over, like, once you've got your stuff written, I'm really happy to go over it with you and just explain the table of contents. And
Okay,
Paul,
I'll try my best.
yeah, so
Thank you.
just because it really is hard to do
Mm.
the whole table of contents manually. And Paul, I did the demonstration right now and recorded it. And I'm sure that there is a YouTube tutorial, but you've already got the template and will be able to use it. But if you downloaded the template and you had an earlier version of Word, I could see that possibly it would get a little bit messed up. But in the end, so if you've got some issues with formatting and you're just about to hand things in, please don't stay up all night working on formatting. Just hand it in to me and send me a note that says that you would that you really need to have a conversation with me about the formatting, that you're handing it in with all of the content there, and you recognize that the formatting didn't work and it was too much, and then I will take that into consideration. But you will have to correct your formatting for your final report eventually. But don't let that be something that causes you incredible stress if it's only if you just can't do the table of contents. Okay.
So Professor, so you're saying go ahead and complete the assignment. We can do the formatting after? No. Okay. Got it wrong.
No, that was a good one though, Paul.
No. I'm just asking.
No, Paul, the formatting is, I've given you a sample template.
Yeah.
And so if there was something that happened, like Antonia just described, that when she downloaded it onto her computer, she had an earlier version of Word. And so not all of the formatting is present there. So and I just showed Antonia that. And so please, you don't want to have to do the formatting afterwards.
Okay.
But if you were having a formatting issue with something and you couldn't fix it, please don't stay up all night trying to fix one little formatting piece, because it can feel like it's an impossible task when you are tired and trying to get something done. So then just write me a note and say, I had a formatting issue, and then go from there.
Okay. So as we're going along, we're doing the formatting. That's what you're saying.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
All right.
Yeah.
And Julia, sorry.
And Paul, like your last task will be to do the table of contents, and it will generate. And if you have some crazy stuff that goes on in the table of contents, don't panic. I can probably fix it real quick.
Okay, so sorry, maybe I'm getting it mixed up. The table of contents is what I'm talking about. Do we do that after the whole assignment is done, or we do it as we go along?
So don't do anything to the table of contents until your assignment is done.
Okay.
So only some, like, I don't know if anyone else has an issue with it, but Antonia, I think, probably had an older version of Word, and so it didn't read the template. And so but you should be fine. If you've downloaded it and it looks the same as the sample did, then you'll be fine. But don't do the table of contents until the very end.
Till the end, yeah.
Until the end, yeah.
Okay. And Julie had a question about the quotes. Are we to use quotes? Now, I used quotes throughout my data collection. So I'm not sure what her question is. Is it
so
keep those quotes or to use them?
yeah, please use those quotes, Paul. And and Julia was just asking something and clarifying something that I had given her as feedback on her assignment.
Oh, okay.
So don't worry, you're good. If I have not said anything about quotes or about including qualitative data or those sorts of things, like, I will have given everyone individual feedback because everyone did something different, right? Like everyone's study is a little bit different.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, and Marita, you're right. There's probably a YouTube tutorial. For most things, actually. If you want to know how to build a house, there's a YouTube tutorial. So, you know, doing templates in Word, not so terrible. All right. So I want to honor your time. I'm
Oh,
happy to answer.
sorry, Professor.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. The sample that you gave us, I see the background, the way you design it. So I wanted to do it in my own word. Can I do it there like that?
Yeah, you can.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So you'll be able to do it. You can find, so just use the same prompts that I used
Okay.
just in the demonstration that I did.
Oh, okay.
But Antonia, if you're feeling confused with it, then just make an appointment with me and we can go over, we can look at your screen together and I can walk you through it.
Okay, no problem.
Sound good?
Okay, thank you. When are we submitting the assignment?
So your submission, so if you remember last week, we talked about the fact that it's due on Friday, Friday by midnight. If you need an extension, you need to ask me, you need to ask me in writing. But the latest extension that I can grant is the 12th at midnight. And that's because I have about 1,200 pages to review. And so if you need more time than that, you need to request an I grade.
I'm almost done.
Yeah, no. So it's great. So those are the parameters.
Okay.
And it's just that usually I can be more flexible, but I usually don't have, 30 to 40 page assignments to look at. Right. So I just, Frizanna and I made a decision to be fair to everyone that we wouldn't extend past and to be fair to ourselves and our lives, and getting things done and getting good feedback to each of you, that we would, that the 12th would be the cutoff date for this course. You may have other professors who are in a different position and have different assignments that they are grading, but that's just the limitation for us. All right, so then if people want to stay and ask, and it should be double spaced, yeah. If you have additional questions, I'm going to stop the recording.